Hello, everybody, and welcome to my interview series, How COVID-19 Has Affected Us, personally, professionally, in business. I thought it would be important to do it now that we've been going through this for a long time now. I know, a very long time. So I thought it'd be important to just come on now that we're all trying to get used to the new normal and just talk about how it's affected us. Even though we're all going through the same thing, it's probably affected us differently personally and professionally. So my first interview today is with Kate Bissinger. As an advancement professional with more than a decade of experience, Kate's work is guided by her passion for building and maintaining trusted relationships. Mission driven and results oriented, she has become recognized as a subject matter expert by serving in a variety of roles in advancement services and donor relations with a specific expertise in operations and gift administration. Kate's own professional mission to ensure donors have the highest level of confidence in an institution's mission laid the foundation for her coaching career, helping organizational thought leaders and innovators realize their potential while empowering them to make meaningful contributions to their organizations. As a certified leadership development coach, ACC credential holder through the International Coaching Federation, and certified disc trainer, Kate can help you unlock your potential and explore your passion. Welcome, Kate. How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for doing
Good.
this and for being the first one on my series.
Oh my gosh, am I the first? Oh
You
boy.
are, for this series, you are the first.
Oh wow. Okay. Well, thank you for that. No pressure.
Just
We'll set the bar
a
low
little.
so that
Yeah, just a little pressure. So if you are watching on the Facebook Live, make sure to come on the Zoom that is in the Facebook event. That way you can participate and ask questions because I'm really not monitoring the group. So, Kate, how did COVID first affect you personally? Let's start with that, if it did.
oh boy. Oh, I would say, well, I need to start by saying I was not prepared at all for the
Hmm.
shift to working from home. Um, but it needs to be said that I am mindful of how lucky I am that I was able to make the shift to work from home relatively seamlessly. My transition was more about figuring out where in the house I could work with the most innocuous Zoom background and figuring out where, I'm going to get the resources and things like that in order to do it. And I apologize if you're hearing notifications come up on my computer. Um, it's because I'm using the microphone in the computer instead of a headphone.
Oh, that's
Um, so I think need to recognize that, my situation is a stable one, which a lot of people can't, are struggling with right now. And so one of the first things to strike me when thinking about how this has hit me is this is a more of a focus on being mindful of how much I have right now, and being thankful for that, and being mindful of how much our community needs right now, and where I can help with that as well. So I just want to put that right out there, is that, in all of this, I am coming from a relative space of abundance, if you will, rather than a woe is me back, about how the pandemic is hit. So that out of the way, yeah, so we started working from home. I recall it was right after St. Patrick's Day. So I have a full-time job in advancement, like you mentioned in the bio, and we watched this unfold, over the very early parts of it, late February, early March. And we're kind of starting right out of the gate, kind of day to day, like what's going to happen today. Are we evacuating our campus? Are we going to continue to work from home? Is it going to, or, work in our offices? How's that going to unfold? So right out of the gate, flexibility, was key to kind of rolling with the punches, right? Moving to the home experience, what I really noticed as a paradox of what this pandemic experience has been for me anyway. Working, I'm home a lot more than I used to be because we're now working from home, and yet I have a lot less free time to be present at home. I'm spending, and I think this is true, I've read that it's true for a lot of other people who are still working full time through this, is that you're working more now because your work is in your home. So there's no specific start time, stop time. It's always right there within, a few yards. So in addition to the work itself, the volume building and the urgency building around some of the work that we do, there's this, I'm home more, but I have less time somehow. And that's been an interesting thing to kind of process and then try to find ways to work around.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like I'm busier now than I was before.
Yes.
And I'm always thinking, okay, what do I have to do today? Because now, yes, it's summer and our kids are home, but we've been worried about school and all of that. So how is that affected? Because how old is your?
Yes, I have a rising senior in high school, so obviously
How is that?
yeah, his senior year is going to look a lot different than he originally thought and than we thought. So we're lucky. He's I don't know where he gets this from, but he's very well adjusted. Can't say that his father and I are, but we talk a lot about this being like, this is not what you thought it was going to be. He actually doesn't start school until the 14th this year.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but it's not what he thought it was going to be. He lost their class, their junior year spring activities were cut short or cut out, so there's always already been a lot of disappointment to contend with. But, going into this year, we've been talking about the opportunity to practice, again, flexibility, to learn resilience, to learn, to roll with the punches on what comes next. And so we've been trying to focus on, the positive aspects of the opportunities to learn here, and because these are great, long, lifelong skills to have, right? Is, again, being resilient enough, being able to pivot when you need to, and being able to, kind of plan, but be ready to change the plan, so
Yeah.
at least I hope we're being successful in teaching him that. He seems to be working with it okay. He got his driver's license yesterday, so
Oh my gosh.
yeah, so it's been a good summer for him. So. I know. It's been a good summer for him. I am thoroughly thankful that we did not have an elementary school student at this time. That's for sure. Yeah, I know. I can't imagine what your life was like in the spring semester.
Yeah, and it's not any better now because we talked yesterday and he definitely is upset that I didn't talk to him about how I was going to keep him home. I just made the decision for him.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize how important that was for him to be involved.
Yes.
So I did make a promise that if the district, if their numbers are low enough by second semester, and they can prove to me that they can keep the kids safe, I would let him go second semester because I am keeping him home. I told him I was scared.
Yep.
So, you hear all of these numbers and deaths and all of that. And I have a cancer background. My husband has diabetes. My mother-in-law has diabetes. Our parents are not young.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to keep everybody safe. So it's hard for kids, at least like you said, your son is older and I'm sure he understands it better.
Yeah.
But yeah, having a 9-year-old, it's very hard to work around.
Yeah, we had the same conversation. And initially we were going to allow him to go back to the hybrid model, where he'd be in school two days a week or 3, doesn't matter. And then had to make a change in our plans because we also have to close relatives that are immune compromised. And
Yeah.
it came down to, you know, if he goes to school with a hybrid model, that means we don't get to see these family members at the holidays. And that, you know, became a reality that we hadn't thought about yet. And that's another, you know, part of this whole thing is that, you know, mortality becomes a reality, not even your own, but those of your
Yep.
loved ones, right?
And I
Um,
know Monroe County's numbers are low, and my husband keeps
mhm.
saying that, but you still in the back of your mind think about it, especially with the
Yeah.
winter coming.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So we made much the same decision with our son, you know, that he's going to do remote for the fall, and then in the spring, you know, we'll have the opportunity to look at it again. And if you know, if we can, and it's you know, we feel like it's safe, then he'll be able to go back in the spring. And so that was kind of the compromise we made with him, you know, is that it's, you know, and this whole situation forces you to think about what's really important and to shift your priorities a little bit. Um,
Definitely.
yeah. So
Yeah, I said to my husband last night because I usually do the sign, the first day of school signs. I'm like, what's it going to say? The Arboretum household for school? I'm like, but at least it'll be a memory, something he
yeah,
can tell his kids and talk to his kids about down the road.
exactly. We say the same thing, like he's living through history right now,
Yeah,
you know, and it's, yeah, it's weird.
it is. So when you talked about pivoting, now
Yeah.
you work at a university, but you
Mhm.
also have your own business. So how did you have to pivot for both?
Good question. Well, you know, the full-time job was again just more of a, okay, you know, bring all your stuff home. My employer was incredibly accommodating with people and the things, the resources that they need at home to be able to continue to do their jobs. So that part wasn't so bad really. You know, it just, we're like everybody else, you know, everybody's becoming an expert in Zoom, and we're learning, you know, how to stay in touch with each other over, you know, digital modes of communication. It's not the same, obviously. You know, I really miss the informal interactions that you have with people when you work, you know, in a space together, because that's where all the real information transfer happens, right? It's not that, you know, you're not getting the real stuff. I mean, you are, but you know, you're getting a layer when you have a meeting, or when you have a phone call, or when you have, you know, an email exchange. But it's when you go to lunch, or, you know, run out to the water cooler. I mean, not to be, you know, it's somewhat cliche, but
Yeah.
it's so true, that, you know, that's when you find out, you run into somebody in the hallway and, oh, I had something for you. And there's this informal exchange of information that just deep, you know, brings a depth to the work that you're doing, that I feel like, you know, it's not there now. But I also see people trying to be mindful of that. So, you know, it's just, yeah, it's a weird thing. It's all those, you know, you don't miss it until it's not there. And then you're like, hang on, you know, why, you know, I should have known XYZ about this. But that's usually the kind of thing you would get when you run into somebody in the hallway and they say, oh, you know, here's a little bit of extra information that didn't come out in the meeting. Um, so, you know, we're all working, you know, working with it again, you know, we're rolling with the punches and trying to have some fun with it. You know, we're not overly, you know, into the theme days on Zoom or things like that that you hear a lot of people are doing. We're um, a little bit less inclined to do that, but we have, you know, tried to do things to maintain connections, even though we're not in the office together. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I was going to say, and with your business,
Oh, yeah.
back to that though, do you think, and I don't know if this is too personal or not, do you think you went through some sort of depression when this happened? Because I know I did, and I haven't really
Mm,
talked, it just popped in my head because I haven't really talked about it. And if it's
yeah.
personal, you don't have to. But do you
No,
think,
that's okay. Where do you think yours, like, what was the genesis of it?
I think because I like to get out and meet with people. Yes, I work from home,
Mm-hmm.
But I missed that one-on-one interaction like yourself. And, you know, everybody joked my office was either Panera or Starbucks. That's where you would find me when my
Yeah.
son was at school. I would work there and meet clients. And I think, just like you said, having that one-on-one interaction, I think it really affected myself and a lot of other people. And I was just
Mm-hmm.
wondering if that's something you went through, maybe a little depression or
Mm-hmm.
anxiety about it all.
Yeah, I can't say that I did, but also I would say that, again, not to be a cliche, but I am relatively introverted. And so, all those memes that you see on Facebook about how the pandemic hasn't changed my life at all, or my
Yeah,
social life at all.
yeah.
I'm one of those where, yeah, I didn't really feel so much of a difference in things like that. And actually, I went through somewhat of the opposite that I think was talked about earlier on, was the um, fatigue of trying to stay in touch with everybody, and everybody wanted a Zoom happy hour, or
Yes, I did a lot of
all
those
of
at the
this.
beginning.
So I had kind of the opposite, where I see the value in doing it, but there came a point where I was overbooked on Zoom catch-ups or happy hours, and I was like, this, I mean, how is this even a thing that, where I'm overbooked on digital meetups.
Yeah.
So yeah, and of course all of that kind of calmed down. So I wouldn't say necessarily a depression as much as a bit more anxiety for sure, about, you know, how much to engage and when it's okay to unplug.
Mm-hmm.
So that was, yeah, I would say for sure shades of that. Yeah. Um, you know,
So how did you have to pivot with your business? Because it is relatively new, only
it's
a year.
very new. It's
Yeah.
very new. Yeah. Actually, because of this sort of new normal that we're working in, where, there does seem to be a lot less time to be present at home, I decided to hold off on the hard launch of my business. And, I know some folks might not agree with that, or might think it was a mistake, but I feel like it was the right thing to do for me, because um, the limited free time that I have right now, I feel is right to devote to family,
Mm-hmm.
um, to, doing the best work I can at my paid job, and, um,
Talk more
living.
about what your business is and what you do.
Oh,
Sorry.
sorry. So, that's fine. So it's Ignite Coaching Collaborative. It is, I work with people who want to develop themselves personally, professionally. They want to develop their leadership skills, and style and presence. My target audience, long term, is not-for-profit leaders, and helping them to develop the presence and the skills that match the passion that they have for their cause. Um, and just kind of helping people discover what it is they want to do, how they want to do it, and knowing that they have the answers already. It's just a matter of discovering what those answers are and trusting ourselves.
That's cool.
So yeah.
And then with
So
a disc, how does that, now if
mhm,
somebody doesn't know what disc is,
yeah.
explain what that is, but how does that play into what you do to help people?
Yeah. DISC is a communication behavior assessment tool that is used to discover a person's preferred method of communication, and that typically is centered on the pace that they like to communicate at, and the focus of how they want to do it. So there are 4 styles that most people fall into. Every style is represented in a person's assessment, but you'll have 1 or 2 styles that are stronger in you. Some people like to be very direct, and they like to be fast paced, and some people like to take it slower and like to be a little more indirect and focus on the relationship rather than the information exchange, things like that. And taking the assessment and learning your own preferred style, and then learning to recognize observable behaviors in others that give you clues as to their preferred style, helps you to stretch your style to communicate better with them.
Okay.
So I kind of think of it as a superpower. If you know how somebody likes to communicate and you can stretch yourself to communicate in the way that is them so that they'll hear what your message, then, I think that's a basic core function of leading, of, professional development, things like that, is to learn, how best to communicate with other people the way they want to be communicated with.
So I guess then what was your thinking then? Now we could go back to that you
Sure.
waited to launch. What was your thinking and what made you decide that? And are you happy you made that decision?
Yeah. So going back to, you know, the decision to hold off, it does feel like the right decision. Whether or not I'm happy with it is not something I've really considered, it's just kind of, it's the right decision. And so I'm satisfied with it. I wish that things had been different and that, it could have continued to roll along, because I was starting to gain some momentum. And I'm still working on it behind the scenes. I'm doing things like working on my website and working on, offerings and things like that. But there's a little part of me that is a little bit like, phew, now I don't have to go out and like network with people. So I'm not gonna, if I'm being completely honest with with myself, it is a little bit of a permission to slow down with it a little bit, instead of, trying to drive forward, because I should be driving forward with it. And honestly, again, going back to the limited free time that I have, it's choosing to live into my values. So it's spending that time with family. It's spending that time doing the best work that I can, at my, at my paid job. And after some recent surgery, I'm back to working out consistently for the first time in about 5 years. And so that's one kind of bright spot, that, I recognized recently, is that without a commute, I can wake up a little bit earlier, not as early as I would have had to with a 20-minute commute, but I can wake up earlier and get my workouts in before the workday starts, instead of, trying to fit it in what would be considered a lunch hour or after work, when I really want to be spending time with family or doing other things. So, it's the pros and cons of it, I think, balance out for now. Yeah.
And that's a good question, because I did have more time with the family at the beginning. So besides more time with the family and being able to work out, what are some of the pros of COVID? What have you been
Mm-hmm.
able to do that maybe somebody can work into their routine
Mm-hmm.
and make it a better situation?
All right. Well, first of all, a fantastic savings on my gas budget, right?
I know. I don't have to fill up once a
Pretty
week
great.
anymore.
Right, because even when you do have to fill up now, the gas prices are so low that, hey,
Yeah.
let's
Yeah.
take that day trip to Buffalo.
Yeah, exactly.
We are, because it's my son's senior year, he's actually started working now too. He's got his first paying job, which we're very excited for him
Great.
about. But it also cuts down then on the free time that he has. And so being here, working from home, those informal interactions I missed from the office, I'm now getting with my son. So, that's pretty great. Under normal circumstances, we'd be able to spend so much less time with him right now. And we don't, there's only so much more of that time left before he flies the nest and, starts his own life. So, thankful for that. And for me, as far as like, I have never been a morning person. I will never be a morning person, but
Me either.
where, before this, my high energy time where I felt like working out was the best was during the lunch hour, which, came with its own set of challenges, but, was it. And so I have, by setting my alarm clock, it sounds so like, just do this, but by setting my alarm clock a half hour earlier, and some gentle nudging from my husband when I don't get up right away, it's been I feel like it's been easier to make a commitment to do that.
That's awesome.
And again, I think, maybe some of the underlying stresses that have been taken away about commute and, things like that, maybe that's what made room to be able to make this commitment to try to do that. That being said, full disclosure, I did not wake up early this morning because it was a bad night's sleep. So
I was like that. My husband and I were both like that Monday. I don't know if you saw my
yeah,
post.
I did.
I did a selfie and I'm like, this is what no sleep looks like. I'm like, we could not sleep Monday at all.
Yeah,
I don't know
yeah,
what it is.
I don't know.
Ugh. How have
We're
you been able to make it fun? Have you been able to make it fun? Like, what have you been doing?
hmm,
Have you been
that's a
playing
really
more
good
games?
question.
Everybody's doing puzzles, and what have you been doing to?
We have a puzzle that's been started and not worked on for quite a few weeks, sitting on our coffee table. It will be fantastic when it's done, but we've actually been playing more. It sounds silly, but been playing more board games. Even
Oh,
if we're not
that's
good at
silly.
them. Yeah, we've. My dogs are getting walks now that they didn't used to. So they're excited about that. I feel terrible for what they're going to go through when we do all go back to normal. They're going to have serious anxiety, separation anxiety issues.
Mm-hmm.
um, and just spending time together, being silly, I mean, there's only three of us, so it's actually my husband spent a lot of time this summer doing outdoor projects. So now we have, a nice area for our fire pit. So we've been doing more of that. And, we're pretty standard operating procedure as far as the COVID family goes. We're kind of doing all the things that you see other people doing with home projects and, and things like that. And just, trying to laugh a lot. I mean, you
It's
know,
important right now with all the depressing things on the news and stuff like that. So you
yeah.
mentioned about going back to normal, whenever
Oof,
that may be and what that may look like.
yeah.
Are you still working from home, and has the university given you any idea of when you might be able to go back into the office?
Yes, we're all still working from home. And I say we all being those whose jobs don't directly interact with students. And it's for a variety of reasons, not the least of which is health and safety of the people who have to be on campus. De-densification has been a new word. That's a big word that we're all learning, right? Is how to spread people out so that they can remain safe. Um, there's just there's a lot of unknowns right now, and so we're making it up as we go along. Not we, the university, but me and my family.
Mhm.
We're for sure working from home through the end of the calendar year, which I think most universities in the area are, for those types of positions. The thing that I'm interested in, not only for the university setting, but for any kind of office setting, is now that we all know that we can work productively, effectively, efficiently from home, do we have to go back? And what does that look like? So that's just the kind of thing that I'm interested to watch unfold.
Yeah.
Um, I I do miss my office at work because it's and I just miss it. But not enough to want to rush back before things are at a state where we believe we can do it safely. Um, if nothing else, this time has given us a real opportunity to practice flexibility, resilience, and faith. We um, my church has continued to hold service online via Zoom for many many months now. Um, it's not perfect, but it's been a great way to stay in touch and a great example of how a community can come together and work together, and believe and support the same decisions to keep people safe.
Yeah.
So, again, those three things, flexibility, resilience, and faith, have been, you know, kind of the foundation of how I think we've been doing, how we've been making it work.
God, I can't believe it's been 6 months.
6
I'm
months.
thinking about,
Yes, I
yeah,
know.
I can't believe it, since March.
Right.
Now
When
we're
we left work, we thought, oh, a couple of weeks. Everybody just take your laptop home. We'll be back in
yeah.
a few weeks. And
Ugh,
mm.
crazy. So how do you think, and I don't know if you've seen it, what does your husband do? I forget.
My husband is a full-time student right now.
Oh, awesome.
So
Okay.
he's also dealing with his own kind of shift in how he does school, if you will, and what his university is doing to, deal with us with the situation. And for him, his program of study is very hands-on. It's, a degree in a trade. And so how do you do lab time when you have to be, you need to be hands-on. You can't learn how to, do some of these things via a Zoom class or a textbook. So it's been interesting.
God, I'm sure. I was gonna say, yeah.
Yeah.
So how do you think, and I don't know if you've seen this through your coworkers or not, how do you think this has affected women differently than men?
Oh, you stumped me again.
I mean, with the
From my own experience, I think I can only speak for myself.
yeah,
I don't know that it's really impacted us differently. I think, we're, again, I'm, in a very lucky position to have a really supportive, partner, and I hope he feels that it's a two-way street. And we're facing all of this together. So I know, I've seen the articles and the stories about, how the stresses of the time are affecting people differently. Um, I have to imagine, and probably you could tell me from your experience, that, when it comes to the kids in school, probably I would imagine that moms are probably taking on more of the burden there than dads are in some households anyway.
mhm,
um, so I think but it's so interesting because we're also living through this time of upheaval in all of the traditional norms that we have, like our generation has grown up with, right? The gender norms are out the window.
yeah,
We're facing, the tough questions that need to be answered about how we address race, how we address diversity and inclusion, how we're going to make change. So I would say that I don't know. I really don't know. I'm sure that there are others who can answer that question a lot better than I can. I think that for us all, this is not an easy time to live through, pandemic or
yeah,
not.
to think we'd be going through a pandemic and then to be going through inequality and all of that, and just to hear what a 9-year-old thinks, and because he
Oh,
watches the news, if we have it on, he'll see it, and to
mm-hmm,
hear him say, well, why do just Black Lives Matter, mommy?
mm,
Because people have in their yard those Black Lives Matter, so we had to
mm-hmm,
have that important discussion,
yeah,
um, and talk about why Black people are treated differently, unfortunately. So that was definitely tough. And then to talk about the pandemic. Well, why did China do that? What he
yeah,
understood. Well, why did China cause this? So we had to,
yeah,
talk about that. But
yeah,
I think my husband has definitely appreciated me more during this time because he was home for 3 months. They
yeah,
had to shut down the restaurant and they didn't open until June, actually.
mm-hmm,
So I think he got a chance to see what I do and how Mikey is all over on top of me and what Mikey expects of me and all of that. So, but now things are back to normal.
yeah,
So he's back to work, and okay, the wife is going to do it all.
right. Things are back to normal for him, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly, for
yeah.
him.
Well, that's a good point too. Yeah. So, the the either working from home or stay at home moms, you know, um, doing both, right? Doing yeah. And then having this, kind of no summer camps, no times for their kids to get that social interaction,
Yeah,
and
I do worry
becoming
about that.
your kids, primary playmate, right? Yeah, that's, like I said, I mean, thankfully that wasn't our experience through this. But
Yeah.
I imagine that it's been rewarding but exhausting.
Yes. Like I said, we did get more family time at the beginning because I had just said to my husband, I don't know, the month before, oh my God, you've been working so much. I wish we had more time together. And lo and behold, we got more time together.
Mm-hmm.
But
Careful
yeah,
what you
we
wish
were
for.
doing the board game, we did lots of rides. So my husband's gas bill went up a little because we couldn't stay inside. Even though I am a homebody like you, I'm an introvert. I love to be home. But I just needed to get out.
Yeah.
So we
Change
did
of
do a lot of
scenery.
rides. Yeah. So
Mhm.
now it's just been the stress of, okay, worrying about school. And we just got his schedule yesterday of what it's going to look like. He'll be doing school Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, 8:30 till 2:15.
Mhm.
And then Wednesdays is, they only expect a couple hours.
Yeah.
Um, so now I have to come up with a plan to make that work.
Mhm.
So yeah, I think it's
Yeah.
a little more stressful for stay-at-home moms, and I'm sure other moms can tell me different or whatever. So yeah, it's been different for me, that's for sure.
Yeah.
So what do
Yeah.
you see looking forward? Do you see still
Mm.
doing more behind the scenes with your business, and then when COVID is done, getting ready to launch?
I do see that. I've also made some connections to do some more pro bono coaching in the
Okay.
meantime. So I'm looking forward to that. It's working with a local nonprofit, which is where I want to spend my time with it. And it's helping me keep my skills sharp. And just getting to do the work that getting to do the kind of work that I love to do in addition to my full-time job without having to worry about the business end of it so much. So for me, that's a good compromise for now. And it's, I'm just thankful for the opportunity to help out with the people that, that I want to work with. And, well, it all, even if it is pro bono, I mean, it leads up to, it's, the resume builder, if you will, or,
Yeah, you never know what it could lead to.
yeah, exactly. So I think, as far as looking forward, I mean, maybe it's an after the new year launch. I don't really know. I'm kind of just going with it right now and seeing where it leads. There's you know, uh, an idea that I try to remember during times like this where we're not really sure what's going on is, just kind of going to jump in the flow and go with it and see where it goes.
How do you stay motivated during this time? Because it is a big change. And yes, you have the support of your husband, luckily, and your son.
Mm-hmm.
But for somebody who doesn't have that support and is struggling
Mm-hmm.
right now,
Mm-hmm.
how do you stay motivated? What can you tell
Yeah.
somebody?
This is a hard one for me because what I initially want to say is try to stay positive, but that's hypocritical because I know I'm a I'm a pessimist at heart. I like to think of myself as a realist, but it so staying motivated, I think you need to know yourself. So if you really, what do you know about who you are? If you know that you're the kind of person that needs connection with people, actively seek those connections, you know, and we're not really as locked down as we might feel like we are, get outside, get into the sunshine, vitamin D deficiencies are tough in this part of the country in the first place, but tougher when you're stuck inside. So get out there and get that vitamin D. That's a mood booster always. And don't be afraid to tell people how you're feeling. I think, we live the world that we live in, this society that we live in, especially now, really can feel discouraging when it comes to being open and honest about how you're feeling, and it's toxic to our mental health, I
Mm-hmm.
think. So I think, you know, find the person or people, or, therapist, counselor, whatever it is, call the number, for the hotlines that are out there. Just find someone to talk to about how you're feeling. And, you know, because people will commiserate with you. Even if you're not feeling motivated, I guarantee you, your friends are not feeling motivated, your family's not feeling motivated. There are people out there that, and they want to know that they're not alone as well. So I think that that's the biggest thing is, reach out to your relationship and, you know, just be honest. Be honest with yourself about how you're feeling. Be honest with the relationships, because people care and they want to know and they want to help, you know? That went dark, sorry.
No, I think it's
Other than
important.
that,
I think women are afraid more than men to talk about it. That's why I brought up the depression on the spur of the
mm-hmm,
moment thing, because we're just so afraid to talk about it for some reason. And I think right now, a lot of people, men and women, are going through this.
yeah,
And like you said, they need to know that they're not alone. And,
yeah,
I know my group is all about social media and technology and stuff, but it's also for women. And right now, we need to move with what is happening in the world.
yeah,
And unfortunately, even though I love social media, that's not always the happiest place either.
right.
For businesses, yes, it's great, but for personal, it's not always the happiest. So I
Yeah,
need, like you said, people need to know that they're not alone and they're not the only ones going through it.
yeah. And you can take a break from putting on a brave face, you can take a break from it. It's okay, and whatever, is going on in our lives, first of, we're not the only ones dealing with it. We're not the first ones ever to deal with it, hopefully, and there's resources out there. And as far as, your basic, like, oh, I'm not motivated to work out today or whatever, it's, just the idea. I know, right? Well, that was me this morning. Um, I don't want to sound like a hypocrite because I do this too. But you got to give yourself a break. You're not going to feel motivated every day, but you also have to be aware if you're not feeling motivated every day and it's for long stretches and it's, then, you know,
Time to talk to
time to
somebody.
reach out. Yeah. And I mean, I believe you'll share my contact information at the end of this.
Yes, we
You can
will.
reach out to me if they want, it's just, we need connection. And I think for a lot of us, especially those that are more extroverted, those that are, used to, those that get their energy from being around other people, this can be a really tough time. And so, sometimes you have to kind of take that first step to seek out the energy that you need. But, we're also, I don't know. I just think that, I think that you need to know what you need, and
That's
we do.
important.
We all know what we need.
Yeah.
We may try to tell ourselves that we don't, or we may try to tell ourselves that we shouldn't need this or we should do that. This certainly isn't my phrase, but it's one that I heard and that I love, is that, we tend to should all over ourselves.
Mm.
And it's just, you know, it's okay. It's okay to take that break when you need it, and to withdraw if you need to, and to, come back out, when you're ready.
I think that's why I wanted to do this. Like I said, my group is more social media and technology, and this has nothing to do with social media and technology, but people weren't really talking about what's going on with them. And
Mm-hmm.
like I said at the beginning, we're all going through the same thing, but we're all handling it differently. We're all having different emotions and different feelings, and we're doing things differently. We're all going through this COVID, but it's how we're handling it. And I think that's important, that somebody can learn from, you know, your experiences to Sherry's that I'm going to be talking to later, or Julia's when I talk to her.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, yes, it's the same topic every week, but it's going to be so different. And that's why I wanted to do the virtual networking so we can make those connections. Because, like I said, I love going out and meeting with people. And right now, the only networking I'm doing is through Fun City. And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
well, if she can do it, well, why not? I have my group, I have over 300 members. Let's start networking in my group so we can make
Right.
those connections.
Right.
Um, so, Julia, let me open it up to you, not to put you on the spot, but do you have anything? Kate for my first one. Yay. Do you have any questions for Kate or any thoughts on what she talked about today?
This was wonderful. And you asked a lot of great questions. Like I would start thinking, okay, I wonder about this. And then you would ask,
Oh, good. I was
the
nervous
questions I
about this
had.
because, like I said, I was worried about how this would play out in a social media group, but I think it's really important to talk about it.
Yeah. And Kate, I think it's wonderful that opened up and talked about basically talking about vulnerability.
Mhm.
um, because that is one of the things that I've found, because I've always been a person that I just start talking about stuff like that. I've sometimes judge myself for it, but sometimes I'll say something and someone will say, "Thank you for being so vulnerable." And I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
what?
You never know who you're
Um,
helping.
yeah. And so, I've always just discovered that it really helps people start talking. So um, I'm glad you put that out there, and
Mm-hmm.
it's just really supportive for people. Um, so I actually was just thinking. I keep thinking, well, is there anything else that I want to ask? And I think you've answered all my questions.
Oh, good. So, how have you been doing during this time? I know we're going to get into it when your interview is, but how have you been doing during this time?
Well, I've actually been doing really well. But I will say that I have all this pre-work that I had done leading up to this situation, having a coach, um, working on going from being, I always consider myself a realist too, um, but learning about abundance mindset and going deeper than just positive thinking, like just really I've done a lot of work, and it's the only reason that I got my business up and running where it's at. And so then most of COVID, I felt like I was already set up in so many ways um, to be successful. And a lot of it had to do with just looking at things from a more positive viewpoint, to the point where there was actually a point where one negative thing we felt was, I think we're better off because this happened. And we didn't know if we should even tell anybody that we felt that way, um, because so many people were struggling and really having difficult situations. But we just felt like, you know, money was pouring in from all over the place. And I'm actually a former restaurant manager, and I love restaurant people and being around people. But I also like being home. But after I quit my job and started working full time, then um, I was missing having that interaction, even with networking. So I love having my husband home working, and now I have a coworker in the house.
See, mine, I couldn't
So
wait to get back to work.
yeah, and he loves this
Being home.
situation.
Yeah, after 3 months of him being
Mhm.
home, I'm like, oh, you're going back to work? Oh, no. So here's a question for the both of you. I just thought of it.
Yeah.
What have you learned about yourself during this time?
Hmm.
See, these are just off the cuff questions. Whoever wants to take that one.
Julia, would you like to take that one first?
Well, I would say that my confidence has gone through the roof. Um, just in being able to embrace myself and who I am, and embrace my imperfections as being my perfections, and you know all that stuff. um, I've just moved forward with my business by leaps and bounds, and I'm really busy right now with my business. And I mean that I'm hitting my goals. I actually still have my goals that I had set up for 2020 hanging here. I was going to throw it away.
No.
But I'm actually hitting it.
And you're not the only one to think that, because I see the comments in Fem City. That's how Julie and I met, and actually that's how Kate and I met, through Fem City. But I've seen other women's comments, and they've definitely said your confidence has grown. And I've only known you a month, and I definitely see a change in the past month that I've known you. So I think it's great, because you're not the only one to say that. People are noticing. Let's put it that way.
That's great.
Oh, yeah. How about you, Kate? What have you learned about yourself?
What have I learned about myself?
Pass it off. Now it's your turn.
I've learned that I'm good at deflecting.
Yeah.
Let's see, what have I learned? I have learned that I'm not quite as pessimistic as I thought I was. Some of that is probably learned, so and incorporated from just this entire time. I'm gonna go personal for a second. I have learned that some of the way I have expressed myself over my life is due to some things that I learned when I was young that don't apply to me anymore, if you will. So I have learned that it's not that it's okay to live into my values, not the values that were instilled in me by others. It's okay to speak out for the things, and start to take a more active stance on the things that I believe in. I am by no means an activist, but I am taking the steps forward that I want to be, and not necessarily worrying so much about what others might think, or so I've learned that this is going to sound silly and it's going to sound dramatic, but that the whole of who I am is informed and influenced by my experiences and the people that I grew up with, and the people who raised me, but it's not who I am. That's important. That was very cryptic and dramatic.
No, I think that's great. I think we need to be more open.
Yeah.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. And it's balancing that with how much I love the people in my life who and it's you can love people and have good interactions with them and have positive experiences without necessarily sharing the same thoughts and feelings and values and beliefs, and they're not mutually exclusive.
So I'm asking for a friend. What do I have to look forward to for a teenager now that you've had time to be home with your child? You don't have to answer.
Well, I got to tell you, I'm not sure how to answer that, because this kid is, we joke about it, but it's not really a joke. We're like, where did this kid come from?
Oh my God, I say that too.
He is well-adjusted, confident, extroverted, all the things that, like his father and I are like, did somebody else raise this kid while we weren't,
Old man's son, no.
So I'm not really sure how to answer that, because we're and I'm not just saying this because I'm a proud mom or anything, but he's just such a great kid. His
you've learned that about him.
Yes, yeah. we haven't struggled with him like I imagine some people struggle with their 17-year-old, you know. And I say that, you know, I knock on every piece of wood in the house. So
wait, the senior year hasn't started yet.
yeah. But
Well,
so I think, you know, I mean, but he's very much the same as Mikey. He's a, you know, only child, you know, so, and you know, other than both his parents working, you know, when he was younger, or, you know, working outside the home, excuse me, when he was younger, you know, I think that, you know, raising him, hopefully raising him with a big focus on family was very helpful. And I know that you're doing the same. And,
yes.
you know, sometimes they need to be put in their place, but by and large, they're good
Yes,
kids, right? And the things that they do aren't out of malice. They're out of, you know, not having learned yet.
Yeah.
Right. So
that's what I try to tell Mikey. Yeah, we may ground you or we may raise our voice every so often, but it's because we're trying to teach you what's right and wrong and how we were brought up. We were brought up with a wooden spoon or a belt or, you know, whatever. And we're not trying to raise them that way. But yeah, we're all trying to just teach our kids that, you know, especially now with everything that's going on, that everybody is equal and everybody should be loved, and you know, and try and handle the best way you can when somebody is not kind to you, but always be kind to somebody, to everybody, no matter skin tone, religion, sex, anything. And you know, luckily I was brought up that way, but some people aren't, unfortunately, and that's how they're raising their children. But they got to be taught to respect. And I think that's really important. Like you said, family. We're all about family. I'm Italian. We're all about family. Gotta have the family. Family is big.
Yeah.
So, well, I think this was great. I was nervous about the first one because, like I said, you know, I'm social media and technology and all of that, but I just think it was really important to do. And I hope everybody watches this playback, comments, and keeps watching. I'm booked until October. I think the first week of October, I have 2 to 3 interviews a week, which I think is really great. So obviously there was a need for this. This was really important to women to come on, excuse me, and talk about this. So thank you for being my first. And I think it was great. And I came up with questions on the fly, and now I'm going to use them.
You're a very good interviewer. Yeah, this is your wheelhouse.
Well, I've been doing it for a month now, so I'm getting better at it. But how can people get in touch with you? And I'll make sure to comment under the live with all your contact information, your website and stuff. But how can people get in contact with you?
So the website isn't live yet, so they can just reach out to me at kate@ignitecoachingcollaborative.com, or they can message me through Facebook. I'm just Kate Bissinger on Facebook, so you can find me. I typically hold back my phone number for people who are more serious about, you know, getting in touch, so I'll hold that back. But, you know, the other email address is Kate_Bissinger@outlook.com. So any 3 of those methods will be very successful in contacting me if you want to.
Yeah, just make sure to go in and put that in one of the comments. That way people can. And like I said, I hope people will watch back. Our next interview today is at 1:30, I think, with Sherry Thomas. And it'll be interesting to get her perspective on the same questions. And I'm sure I'll have different ones as the interview goes on, like I did with you. So thank you for joining me, Kate. And thank you,
very
Julia.
much.
And this was great. So good luck with everything. And, you know, ask questions in the group. Like I said, if you have any comments or questions about this interview with Kate, tag her or myself, and we'll make sure that they get answered. So thank you. And I'll see you guys soon.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Have a great day.
You
Bye-bye.
too. Bye-bye.